Welcome, everybody, to the podcast that is called Combo Sports Talk. This is the 7th episode. Wow, 7 episodes already in Combo Sports Talk. This show, Combo Sports Talk, is going to be co-hosted by Shawn, Davisson, and Dustin Tran. The guy that is speaking right now, your host truly, is Dustin Tran. Before you do anything else, though, please subscribe to this YouTube channel called Combo Sports Talk. There will also be the podcast version of Combo Sports Talk as well. All right, it's going to be released via Anchor. Anchor distributes the Combo Sports Talk podcast into many podcast apps, particularly Apple and Spotify. Remember to follow our Instagram. It's called @combo.sports.talk. All right, it has a lot of content on there. Now, our Twitter has not been set up yet, but we are working on that. It will be created very soon. Those pages will show quotes, rankings, previews, short clips of what happened in our episodes, may even live tweet once we get a Twitter account, depending on what's going to happen. All right, as far as I'm concerned, we got a lot going on about that. But the point is, those things are going to be created very soon. All right, it's going to help the show podcast grow even more. Shawn, time to recap what happened in the NBA world. A lot of things have happened. Anything to add to what I just said?
I mean, you covered it, man. It's crazy time. It's summertime, all the vacations, just it being summer itself, all the activities. We still managed to get out. And this being the 7th episode, that's awesome. Love talking to you guys on the social media. Working on that still, getting the Twitter out, but Instagram, super fun over there.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, you couldn't have said any better. That means we're definitely committed to this thing. So you guys got to pay us back with the subs. All right, so we got a lot to talk about on our show today. All right, we're going to be talking about the Russell Westbrook trade, who won that, and then we're going to talk about the biggest winner in the draft, and then we're going to talk about the biggest loser in the draft as well, and we're going to be talking from a franchise perspective as well. Then we're going to be doing a segment. You guys are going to love this. It's called Start, Cut, Bench. All right, I'll explain more about that once we get there. All right, then we're going to be reacting to the Carson Wentz foot injury. It's rather interesting to say the least. And then predicting what will happen to Pascal Siakam. That will kind of tie into NBA free agency as well. And then we're going to be doing a ranking for who we believe are going to be the top 5 teams in college football. So remember, be sure to catch us on all the topics that are being talked about. We are now officially ready to get Combo Sports Talk started up. All right, so let's get the show started up. All right, so what is the opening topic going to be about? It is going to be about Russell Westbrook. And I'll also discuss about this on my personal YouTube channel as well. My personal YouTube channel is Sports Guy Talking. So make sure you subscribe to that too. I'll leave the link down below in the description box. But anyways, though, let's get started with the Russell Westbrook trade. All right, so the NBA world, yeah, man, it was shook when the Lakers traded for Russell Westbrook. According to a tweet from Shams Charania, it was said, quote, "The Washington Wizards have agreed to trade Russell Westbrook, a 2024 second-round pick, 2028 second-round pick, to the Los Angeles Lakers for Kyle Kuzma, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Montrezl Harrell, and pick 22 tonight." Sources tell The Athletic, Stadium. That was the tweet. The Lakers are now considered to be title contenders with Russell Westbrook as the third star. The Wizards are now seeming to look like, well, they just seem like they're going to be rebuilding now. Before I say anything else, though, I have to go ahead and present you guys with the topic question. Who won the Russell Westbrook trade?
Well, I'm going to say it, the Lakers. I think they won it. I think they lost a little bit of spacing, but I think they got out guys they have been looking to move for a little bit of time now. And you know what they got back in return? They got back a superstar caliber player. You might not think he's a superstar, but let me tell you, former MVP, averaging triple doubles, like this man helps his teams out. And I think I'd consider him a superstar. And I feel bad for this man. He's been traded a lot over the past few years, but I think now he's found his home in the Lakers. He's with AD, he's with LeBron. People might not like the spacing as much. Spacing isn't really what the Lakers really need as much anyways. So I think spacing in today's NBA is important. But for the Lakers, I don't think that's the way they really like to roll as much.
I kind of disagree with you. Kind of do. But I do agree about the part about Russell Westbrook. Yes, he's a superstar. No matter what people try to say about him, he is a superstar. Having said that, I don't think this trade was good for the Lakers at all. And if you think that I'm talking bad about the Lakers, wait till what I have to say about the Wizards. All right, so the Lakers, all right, they get rid of Kyle Kuzma, KCP, Harrell. All right, well, I mean, I'm not going to get too bad about that if you're the Lakers because those guys weren't helping out their teams anyway. Now you get Russell Westbrook, third star. Now he's going to be next to AD and LeBron. But what I'm going to get on you about is that spacing does matter very much in today's NBA. You need spacing to win today's NBA. You need all the space that you can get because it's all about spacing the floor and getting shooters. Russell Westbrook does not provide you that. His shooting efficiency has not been where it needs to be for a superstar. And yes, he is a superstar, but it's not where it needs to be. And LeBron, yeah, he can shoot from outside, but you're taking away one of his biggest strengths by driving to the hole. And then AD, he needs to be playing in the post. He needs to be dominating the paint. The Lakers are going to have spacing basically about the size of a shoebox. They're not going to have a lot of spacing. And I know you said that the Lakers are not going to rely on that. Well, that's one of the reasons why the Lakers, when LeBron got hurt, went down. They didn't have a lot of spacing and they couldn't dominate teams in the paint. You can't have scoring droughts in today's NBA. In the Lakers, they got that. So I'm not really too encouraged about this deal for the Lakers. I don't think this deal, at least alone, makes them title contenders. I think it just makes them marginally better than what they were before this trade.
I mean, I have to extremely disagree with you. You don't think you saying they get that much better off getting a superstar, which you agreed with me and called a superstar on this team, and they didn't even give away a superstar. The real only true spacer that they gave away is Kyle Kuzma, but you bring that back in with a former MVP, and you're acting like Russell Westbrook cannot shoot the ball at all. This guy, I mean, he can put the ball in the basket. He can shoot from three. He's been down a little bit over the years, but he's also had an increased workload. And yeah, LeBron, not that great of a shooter. He can shoot it though a little bit. AD, he's a good shooter, but I agree. You want him in the paint dominating. Russell Westbrook, you're just throwing another superstar on that team. This team relies on good defense and just being able to score, how they want to score, because it looks like a dominant team. And however they want to get to the basket, they'll get to the basket.
But you guys,
and they're going to sign guys in free agency. They're going to sign guys like Wayne Ellington and stuff like that who can just space the floor. It's not like this is a set team. They're going to add, a few minimum shooters on that team.
Yeah, I see where you come from. And if they had a couple of good shooters, all right, this might be able to work out for them. But I'm just not overly encouraged about this because what matters most? Playoff basketball. And at least two of these three, at least in recent years, 2 out of the last 3 years, they've been injury prone. AD, LeBron, and you can't just change up your system come playoff time. I could see a scenario where the Lakers in the regular season, they just let Russ be the primary facilitator. And I think that's going to work just fine because Russell Westbrook's a great player in the regular season. There's no denying about that. Anybody that tries to argue about that, all right, you're just wrong about that. It's just that once you go to the postseason, though, that's when Westbrook doesn't really become reliable with his playmaking. And I know that LeBron, AD, yeah, they could take over, but then you're changing up your entire system in the playoffs. And you can't just change up the system just before the playoffs start because it's going to mess up team chemistry and everything like that. The flow is going to be off. That's why I said they might only win one playoff series at best, depending on the matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you're saying, but you're forgetting how good LeBron is and how great he is. I think you're forgetting how great AD is. These are probably 3, I'd say 3 for sure, top 15 players, maybe top 10, depending on who you ask. And you put them all on one team together. People are saying maybe he won't gel well with the team. People will also forget Westbrook played as KD's little side man whenever they were on the Thunder together. And, Westbrook can play that role. He's come into his own, but also I don't think he has any big problem just, letting LeBron do his work because he's had an MVP alongside of him on his team as well. So honestly, I don't think it's a bad trade for Lakers. I love this trade for the Lakers, but yes, they need to sign some guys like Wayne Ellington, some guys that can shoot the basketball.
I just think they traded for the wrong point guard, or rather signed. I mean, if they signed CP3, if they signed Kyle Lowry, if they traded every single asset they had left for Damian Lillard, hey, that would have been a great move for the Lakers. But I just feel like they traded for the wrong point guard in terms of fit. I'm just not overly encouraged. Now, having finished what my critics for the Lakers in that trade, this is not going to be nearly as bad as what I'm going to say about the Wizards. What kind of deal was that, Wizards? That was a terrible deal for them. I mean, Russell Westbrook, say what you want about him in the postseason, he's good enough when everybody's healthy. He was good enough for that Wizards team to get them to at least a top 6 seeded team in the Eastern Conference. Look, there's a reason why they went 18-7 in their last 25 games when everybody was healthy. And you know why they were bad to begin the year? Because everybody was out due to COVID. Everybody was out due to injuries. I mean, let's run it down. What you got? All right, you got Kuzma, okay? Kyle Kuzma. He's gotten a lot of criticism over the years. Yeah, he might grow on the Wizards. I'm not overly confident in Kuzma. I'm not that big of a fan of him. KCP. He's a hot and cold player. He's just a role player at best, Not really somebody that can facilitate, just only somebody that can catch and shoot threes. All right, and then you got Harrell. Look, I know Montrezl, he was a former 6th Man of the Year candidate and all that, but there's a reason why he was buried on that Lakers bench. He's a defensive liability. That's why. So, I mean, what I'm trying to say is that he's not going to help out your team that much either. So he's not going to improve the team either, okay? And then the first round pick you ended up trading out of the first round to get to pick 31, which you picked Isaiah Todd, and all these players. Oh yeah, and you also got Aaron Holiday as well. But all these players are just listed. They're not going to be major contributors. None of them are even stars in their own right. And outside of maybe Kuzma, maybe him, there's nobody in that deal that could show future signs of a star. This was honestly a terrible deal for the Wizards. I do not know what they were even thinking in that regard. I couldn't explain it. Shawn, you got anything to add to that?
I mean, you said it, man. The Wizards you're telling me a former MVP and they just got next to nothing for it. I mean, and trust me, I like the Isaiah Todd pick. He's a solid guy from the G League Ignite team, so he kind of knows how to train like a pro already. But it's not a crazy exciting pick. It's just a good pick. And you're giving your superstar up for that. I just don't get it. I don't like it on the Wizards side. I got to agree with you. It's just terrible for the Wizards. I'd probably give them about probably a D for the Wizards. I mean, it's just a bad trade.
I think this is an F trade. I could not see how this is even a passing trade. You basically ended up not even getting a first-round pick for Russell Westbrook. Say what you want about Westbrook and his playoff failures in the playoffs, which I believe are legitimate. Like, he's just not a good postseason player. He's still worth a first rounder in that regard. You're telling me that Russell Westbrook is worth basically what a borderline all-star player on a bad contract is? I mean, I could not even believe. I could not believe at the lack of value that they got. The Wizards, they can't even rebuild either. That's not even a good package for a rebuild either. They don't even get good picks out of this deal either. They don't even get guys that have a lot of potential either in this deal for the most part. So I was really bewildered and really confused, quite frankly, why they would even do this deal.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get a call from the Lakers and hear this offer and get excited and jump the gun on it. And I saw this and I was very confused. The Lakers have some assets, but the assets they have should be able to pick up, like you said, a lower end all-star caliber player on a bad contract. You could argue Russell Westbrook isn't on a good contract, but he's also, like we said, a superstar caliber player.
Yeah, we know that he's capable of being a superstar in the regular season. It's just that he's not a superstar come postseason time. That's my criticism for the Lakers.
Yeah, but they made it to the Western Conference Finals with him and KD. He knows, people just forget, he knows how to play that second, third man role. He doesn't have to be the star everywhere he goes, but he has had to be in recent history.
But this trade doesn't necessarily help the Lakers become a better basketball team either, in terms of winning the championship or going to the finals. I don't really see how that's going to help them out in that regard either. So when I look at, at least they got rid of the trash assets and at least they gained something. That's the best thing you can say about it. And maybe if it doesn't work for midseason, maybe they can swap with the Trailblazers for Damian Lillard and send Russell Westbrook to the Trailblazers. Maybe something like that's going to happen. If that happens, then that won't be too bad at the end. But if they're planning on keeping Russell Westbrook for the entire season, it does not help them become title contenders. I would have preferred if they signed a Chris Paul, if they signed a Kyle Lowry, if they traded all the picks for Damian Lillard. That would have been better off than just trading for Russell Westbrook. But I guess when you get a trash deal that the Wizards offered or whatever happened, I guess you just got to accept it, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess the Wizards, the only thing you can really say is they're trying to hit the bottom and they're doing what the Pistons were doing and just going for that number one pick. Maybe they're looking so far ahead and they love Chet Holmgren or something like that and they want him really bad. But even if that's the case, with today's lottery odds and stuff, the odds of you getting that number one pick, just not great.
And also, they're not even, that team right now is still not even good enough to go to the bottom yet. So I don't even understand why the Wizards would even do that deal. So when I look at this deal, I look at the Lakers, they got like a C minus in the deal. I know you're going to give me a little bit of pushback. And then when I look at the Wizards, it's an F, man. I don't know how to say it any other way, man. It's going to be a lose-lose trade. But if I had to pick a winner, the Lakers are going to win this deal by default, just because they got Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, I mean, my final grades, I think you're right. I'm going to drop it down to an F for the Wizards. Just bad, just an awful trade. I don't see any bright spots for it unless Isaiah Todd becomes something, which I don't think he will. And then, Lakers, I mean, C minus. I see what you're saying. I'm going to give it a B plus. It's hard for me to give out A's for trades when I haven't seen the future yet. I don't see how they're going to gel yet. I need to see the Lakers sign shooters around him for insurance. But, B plus, I'm happy with that B plus.
All right, well, I guess we can just agree to kind of disagree about the Lakers. But one thing we do agree about, this was an awful deal for the Wizards. All right, let's move on now to the next topic. All right, so this next topic, it's going to be debating about which team was the biggest winner in the 2021 NBA draft. All right, so there was a good amount of winners to pick from in the 2021 NBA draft, which means you cannot go wrong with a lot of options. Out of all the winners, though, both of us have to go ahead and pick out one. We have to pick out who was the biggest winner in this trade. All right, so this is from a franchise perspective, though, not necessarily from a player's perspective. That's what I'm trying to say. Before I say anything else, though, I have to go ahead and present you guys with the topic question. Who was your biggest winner in the 2021 NBA draft?
Man, I might be stealing your answer, but I just love the draft for this team. I have to go with the Charlotte Hornets. I mean, they might sound like bias, but when you hear reasoning, it's kind of hard to hear why. James Bouknight, got him at, what pick is it, 12?
11.
11. And he was a projected top 8 pick. I mean, if he falls to you, you got to take him. So that was, great move by them. Love that. So, starts off good. Then you got to throw in the Marshall Plumlee. They pick up Marshall Plumlee, get rid of it, end of the second round, move up to the high end of the second round. You move high in second round and also pick up a center who's a pretty solid option. And with that pick, they got JT Thor, who I really like out of Auburn. I watched him in high school. He's a good player. And I'm excited for him. Got a steal out of him in the second round. He's a first round talent. Then you backtrack a little bit. They traded up future first round pick to get, I think, pick 18, I believe, take Kai Jones. Me and you are super high on Kai Jones. He's a lottery player and he falls there. Love it for them. And then at the very end of the draft, no one's talking about this man. Scotty Lewis, he's a former 5-star player. He was really good out of high school. McDonald's All-American, all of that. And he was good at Florida. I don't understand the hate on him. I'm excited to watch him play in the summer league. I think he's I think he'll play more of like a Jalen McDaniels role on the Hornets. Good player off the bench, honestly.
Yeah, you stole my answer. You definitely stole my answer. I was going to pick the Charlotte Hornets. And although I do agree with them that they are the biggest winner, I'm going to point out another biggest winner that I have. I'm going to point out the Golden State Warriors. They were the biggest winners in this. Yeah. Why? Because they got Jonathan Kuminga with the 7th pick from the D'Angelo Russell trade. Remember, this pick was owned by the Timberwolves. And so they made a great pick in Kuminga. And Kuminga was as good as a top 4 player in this draft as far as I'm concerned. Kuminga, he can do a lot of things. He can shoot the 3. He can play defense. He's got a lot of versatility in him. He just fits being the modern day wing player. I just really like what Kuminga brings to the table. And then you look at pick 14, Moses Moody, my man. Yeah, I wanted the Hornets to take him at 11, but obviously when Bouknight was there at 11, it was just going to be hard for the Hornets to pass him. When I look at Moses Moody, I think about a Joe Johnson type of player. I think of a CJ McCollum type of player. And when I say, and I want to address about Kuminga real quick, Kuminga reminds me of Jaylen Brown when I look at him too. But yeah, like I said about Moses Moody, yeah, he reminds me of a Joe Johnson and a Donovan Mitchell. Just his explosiveness, just the way that he can get to the hoop, the way that he can make his jump shots. And he's an underrated facilitator too. That's going to be really important, especially for the Warriors' offensive scheme, because they like their guards to be good facilitators, and they just like to space the floor out. I would know that because I'm a Warriors fan. I'm also a Hornets fan as well, as you can see right here. Yeah, that's my Hornets stuff. But yeah, like I said, man, I just love this draft. It was great for the Golden State Warriors, and and although I don't think that they were the biggest winners, if you had to argue them as number one, hey, I would have no problem with that. I look at the Hornets and the Warriors as 1A and 1B. This was a great draft for both of those teams.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. The Warriors definitely 1B. Like, they did awesome. Kuminga, pick 7. He should not be there. I think a lot of people don't know this. Kuminga reclassified up. So he's a year younger. He should be going into college this year. But instead, he trained like a professional for a year. He did really good. I understand the shooting isn't there yet. I think it can get there. And if not, you have a two-way slasher if he came in next year, he'd be a top 5 pick, no question to me. So he still has that extra year to learn and everything. And I love Kuminga. And also who I love, Moses Moody. Moses Moody, if you could choose the best NBA fit for him, that's the Warriors. I mean, he gets to help them space out, and he's going to shoot the ball. He has a playmaking potential. I mean, that's a great pick for them. Love the Warriors draft.
Yeah,
I think it's time to move on to the losers if you're ready.
Not quite yet. I mean, I know your excitement about the losers. We have a lot of losers to get to today, but I also want to address some more about the winners as well. So I haven't really shared my opinion yet about the Hornets. Yeah, I love the Hornets pick that they made. James Bouknight, he reminds me of CJ McCollum, the way that he can get to the hoop and the way that he can just make shots. He's going to be able to replace Malik Monk. We didn't extend him the qualifying offer. We did for Devontae Graham. So that means we want Graham back, not Monk. Like we both thought that we should sign Devontae Graham. That's what we were saying, if you remember, and we should let Monk walk. Bouknight's going to replace Monk and then some. Besides, James Bouknight is a James Borrego type of pick. Malik Monk, as much potential as he had, as much as I want him to succeed, he wasn't a James Borrego, Mitch Kupchak pick. Well, Bouknight, he can space the floor. He has a polished offensive game as far as I'm concerned, and he's an even better defender than a CJ McCollum because he can steal the basketball and he can play good perimeter defense. Then I wanted to talk about Kai Jones. When the Hornets traded for him, we both thought it was an unprotected first. We couldn't quite get our sources. We got the sources now. It's even better. It's a heavily protected first-round pick. Top 18 protected in 2022, then top 16 the next 2 years. Then in 2025, it's going to be lottery protected. Then if it didn't convey into a first-round pick by then, we just give up 2 second-rounders in 2026 and 2027. That is amazing to me. The Hornets have needed centers for however long. Ever since the Al Jefferson era, we have not had a center. So we resolved that issue too. He's going to be a great fit next to LaMelo Ball. I know that you're hyped for Kai Jones, especially with those alley-oops LaMelo going to be throwing up there. And then JT Thorpe, pick 37. Like him a lot. Good 3-and-D player. And he's going to be that on a playoff contender. He's going to be a winning player. He's going to be like OG Anunoby. So I can definitely see him in that kind of manner. Then pick 56. We make a value pick. We got Scotty Lewis, who in my opinion should have gone way higher in the second round. He provides at least depth, competitiveness. Yeah, it's just really good. And I want to address back to pick 37. We got that by getting Mason Plumlee. I'm not a big Mason Plumlee guy, but I'm sure that he's probably an upgrade over Cody Zeller. He's definitely an upgrade over Bismack Biyombo. And we got to move up 20 spots to do that because it was pick 57. We basically swapped spots. I don't even know why the Detroit Pistons did the deal. It made no sense to me. So, yeah, I just like that. Anything else?
For winners, I'd like to throw out a few picks I loved. Magic getting Suggs at 6. I really like that. He fell right into their lap, and that's awesome for them. Pick 20, Jalen Johnson fell all the way down to the Hawks. I think, I'm a Duke fan. I like Jalen Johnson. I don't like what he really did to Duke, but I love that. I just love the pick for the Hawks. And then any other picks I really loved? Trying to think. Are there any specific picks you loved yourself?
Any specific picks? What I loved that the Rockets traded up for Alfred Sengun. Very good value pick. I like that pick a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think he fell down quite a bit. He got a lot of lottery hype, maybe even top 10 hype coming up. And then he kept falling a little bit. And, the Rockets traded up and they got him. So I like that as well.
Yep. So that's basically what we're going to note as the winners. Let's move on now to the losers. Okay, so we're going to be talking about the biggest draft losers. All right, so that's going to be the next topic. All right, so like I said, man, there were some strange selections, and I'm sure you're going to back me up on this throughout the 2021 NBA draft, which means it might be hard to decide than usual. Out of all the losers, though, both of us have to go ahead and pick out one. Again, this is from a franchise perspective, not a player's perspective. Before I say anything else, though, I have to go ahead and present you guys with the topic question. Who was your biggest loser in the 2021 NBA draft?
Um, I have to give that to the Pacers. I mean, I like so pick 13, they took Chris Duarte, and I love him. He's from Oregon. I really like him, and I loved it if a playoff caliber team picked him up. But as the oldest player in the draft, you just stay in mediocrity if you're the Pacers. You don't gain very much from taking this guy. Like when Cam Johnson went to the Suns, oldest player in the draft, he was like 22 or 23 already at that point. I loved it because I like Cam Johnson. He's a shooter and he adds something to a playoff team. I mean, they just went to the finals. Chris Duarte, he doesn't add anything to the Pacers really because they're just not a finals team. And you want to draft young and develop if you're where the Pacers are at.
I kind of disagree. Well, keep going.
Well, then they picked Isaiah Jackson. And Isaiah Jackson, I like Isaiah Jackson. But they're also paying, 3 centers heavy money. So they're going to have to play those guys. You're going to get your money out of them. And so it's going to be hard for him to develop. I like the picks. I don't like the Pacers picking those players. I like the players. I don't like the picks. That's what I'm going to say.
Well, I kind of disagree with you. When you mentioned about Cam Johnson, the Suns, that was before everybody knew that the Suns were going to be a finals team. They had just finished being the worst team in the NBA. So I'm going to give you a little bit of pushback on that. I don't necessarily agree with that in terms of that. That was looked at as a bad pick at the time. So you can't use future knowledge and use that to your benefit. Who's to say that Chris Duarte, a guy that I like a lot too, won't make that kind of impact on the Pacers? I'm not saying they're going to go to the finals, but you just never know, especially in today's NBA. Now, in Isaiah Jackson, I actually love that pick. Now it's going to make it easier for them to move on from Miles Turner for the Pacers. All right, so my biggest loser, and I'm surprised you didn't list this out. I'm going with the Sacramento Kings. I really did not like their draft. Really did not. Davion Mitchell at 9. Don't get me wrong, Mitchell can play, but on the Kings, what? They already got 2 very good guards, with Fox and Halliburton. They absolutely need to go with Sengun, in my opinion. You might agree, you might disagree, but they need to go with Alfred Sengun. He's a center. He could have replaced Rashawn Holmes rather easily. He would fit in analytically well. He can set picks. He's versatile. He can dominate inside. He's got good finesse. He would fit well next to Fox and Halliburton. And then you also look at Davion Mitchell. He's already an older rookie. I mean, what are the Kings trying to do? I didn't know the Kings were in win-now position. I didn't know they were good enough to be in win-now position. So if you're in win-now position, they're not in win-now position, and yet they're picking a rookie that is a win-now kind of player. And then you look at pick 39, I believe. That's what the Kings had. I'm going to try to say his name. Neemias Queta. All right, so he was their second-round pick. That's what I'm trying to say. They picked him. I've heard people compare him to Dwayne Dedmon. I mean, I kind of see where it's coming from, but I still didn't like the pick. He's a limited offensive player. Okay, so he's not going to fit into the rotation very well. And then you look at a very raw player, which, the Kings, you're in a rebuilding situation. Okay, fine. But why pick Davion Mitchell at 9? It contradicts the Kings' goals of being a win-now team. The picks made no sense to the roster, and it did not jive. It just didn't make any sense whatsoever. What was that? What was that, Kings?
All right, so 2 things. First thing, I'll give you a little bit more pushback on what I said about Cam Johnson and saying I can't use future knowledge. I like Cameron Johnson. I wrote a little article about that years ago. And, I like Cameron Johnson. They were going in the right direction. Pacers don't have a direction right now. So it's tough to say that for them. But Suns had a great direction, and you had a shooter. You like that. I just don't like that for the Pacers. Now for the Kings, I'll give you a little bit of pushback for that as well. I like Davion Mitchell and I like Kata a lot actually. But I what I don't like, and I'll agree with you this, they drafted they had an old class they drafted. They're both like seniors. Like I don't understand why I drafted late, and especially with the guard depth the Kings have, don't love that. So I would consider them losers, just not the top loser. But Kata, I mean, if all right, look up some of this man's highlights in college. Utah State. This guy, whenever he played anyone, no one was touching the basket. He can't shoot at all, but defensively, he's a monster. I do think he actually is a little more polished than people think. I mean, this man's just dominant. I think he'll be good with the Kings. I like Dwayne Dedman. I don't think he'll be an all-star or anything like that. Dedman seems about right, but I agree they're a loser. I just don't think they're the biggest loser.
I just think that the picks were strange. I like to have my picks correlate with my roster. You know me. I've always been that kind of guy, and I try to see how do they fit into the rotation, how do they fit into their offense, how do they fit into their system, both offensively and defensively, and are they win now players or are they players that you're set out there to develop? And the Kings, they showed no direction whatsoever. So it's like, yeah, they might turn out to be decent players, but I mean, if you're the Kings, don't you want another star? Don't you want to go with a guy that's lesser known, especially after you passed up on a superstar international player in Luka Doncic? You don't want to pass up on Şengün, who might be really good. So, I mean, to me, they needed a guy that was finesse with the basketball, and I just was kind of dumbfounded about it. But I also had another loser on the list. I actually almost picked them. I actually was about to pick the OKC Thunder, actually. And a lot of people might be surprised what I'm saying, but Josh Giddey at 6, he can play, but he's not that good. He shouldn't be picked before Bunite. He shouldn't be picked before Kaminga, those kind of guys. That's what I'm trying to say. And I just found it kind of weird that Josh Giddey was picked at 6, and then, they traded out 16, grab another future first round pick. So they just lost out on a, well, I mean, yes, they did gain, but I'm talking about in the present right now. They lost out on a first rounder. I don't know. They just made a lot of picks that were just like, I don't know. I was just kind of confused about it.
Yeah, Josh Giddey's a big question mark. I like him, not where he was picked. Definitely, he should definitely be an end of the first or end of the lottery type of player, maybe even like mid to later first round. But I like him. I just don't like him that much. I'll throw out another loser, Memphis Grizzlies. They picked who I really like, Zaire Williams at 10. And I think he'll actually be a really good NBA player. But you traded up 7 spots when you could have got him there. You traded up 7 spots to pick the same guy you could have gotten later. I like the player, just not the idea of what they did. So, not huge losers. I just don't like what they did. And then I'll also throw out the Spurs. They took Josh Primo at 12. He was good at Alabama, but, I just don't like that pick really. Primo's good. He's not 12th overall pick good. He's in the first round good.
Yeah, there was a lot of strange picks. I'm also going to list out another loser. You might give me a little bit of pushback. I'm going with the Toronto Raptors. I thought for sure they were going to pick Jalen Suggs. Now you don't pick him. Now you're going to either lose Kyle Lowry in free agency. You don't have a viable point guard. Yeah, I know you got Van Fleet, but he's more of a combo guard rather than a facilitator. Okay, and even if you do bring back Kyle Lowry, he's 35. And the Raptors are not finals contenders right now. So, I don't know. I don't know why they just didn't pick Jalen Suggs. It just did not make a ton of sense to me. Now, and we're going to get to this later, now it creates question marks about Pascal Siakam as well, who I just think had a down year. I still think the guy can play. I think people are just being too hard on him. I mean, come on, the Raptors weren't even playing their own arena all year last year. I mean, give them a break, man.
Yeah, I mean, I I like Barnes a lot. Like I like him more than the usual person.
Yeah.
And I think he is worthy of like a 5th overall pick, just not to the Raptors. I kind of agree with you there. I think they should have picked Suggs. They needed to replace Lowry, who I think we both believe is going to leave. And Barnes, he's a good facilitator. He's a very underrated facilitator. He can facilitate, but you want a true point guard to actually run your plays through and all that. So I agree with you. It's kind of a question mark, but yeah, I don't love the pick. But I do like the player.
I mean, Barnes, he might be a decent player, but he's not really top four worthy in my opinion. We do a redraft, we won't realize that this was a major reach. Obviously, it seemed like a lot of teams were out of touch with how the rest of the armchair, whatever you want to call it, fans were looking at the picks. And also, here was also another biggest loser. The people that attended the arena because to the draft, because we at home were getting notifications on trades and stuff like that, and the fans did not even realize it at all, and even the commissioner was getting confused and everything like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that's something worth noting. All right, let's move on now to the next topic. All right, this is going to be a new segment called Start, Bench, Cut. All right. So this is going to be the next topic, like I said. All right, so there will be 3 NFL quarterbacks. You see them right there: Sam Darnold, Mitchell Trubisky, Daniel Jones. All right, so So start means you're the best. Bench means you're the 2 guy. Cut means you're the worst one. All right, so obviously you see those 3 on your screen right now. Shawn, all right, I want you to go ahead and go first. You can give your order. You can list why you have that player at that spot, and then you can just run down a quick reason or 2 why.
Yeah, I mean, really quickly, start Daniel Jones, bench Sam Darnold, cut Mitch Trubisky. And these were 3 very good options. I'm going to explain them. Daniel Jones, he is a starter. He's never had a great offensive line. And finally, he's gotten weapons this year. I'm banking on that this year. I like Daniel Jones this year. Maybe he's not a playoff caliber. Maybe he's probably last in his division, honestly. That's where I'm going to pick the Giants. Spoiler alert, but that's Daniel Jones. I think he'll have the best year of his career this year. I think, I think he's the best quarterback here.
All right, you can keep going if you want to.
Yeah, and then Sam Darnold, I think Mitchell Trubisky's better right now. I'm kind of banking off Sam Darnold getting better with the Panthers this year. He has weapons now. No more excuses. Sam Darnold get better. Then Trubisky, he's just got downgraded to a backup. No one seems to really want him all that much. I just don't see much for him coming this year.
All right, and for me, what I did, not necessarily based off the same criteria as you, I'm going to do based on what I would rather have as a GM if I had those 3 quarterbacks in the room. So start, I'm going to surprise a lot of people, but I'm going to say I would start Mitchell Trubisky out of these 3, okay? And then I'm going to say bench Daniel Jones, and then cut Sam Darnold. Yeah, I know that's not what a lot of people probably have on their list, but I'm going to come up with that why, because Mitchell Trubisky, I think of him as an Alex Smith, Joe Flacco type of player. All right, so he offers good mobility. He's actually got plenty of arm strength. He's an on-schedule QB, given that the play call could be good. If you give him good play calls, he can execute that. And he's shown signs of being a winner. He's taken the Bears twice to the playoffs, and before you say anybody could do that, just ask Nick Foles, Super Bowl champion, how hard it was for them to win games. Trubisky actually was decent for the Bears in this last year. He's just a backup right now. I'm not really sure why he's just a backup. He should be a starter in this league somewhere. And then bench Daniel Jones. I mean, when I think about him, I think of him as a more talented version of Josh McCown. He's shown flashes of potential. He's shown really good games. He's got good arm strength, good mobility, but he's just too inconsistent of a player. He has too many boomer bust games, so I can't rely on that kind of dependability. And then Sam Darnold, I got to put him as the worst one. You're just a turnover machine. Bad footwork, can't throw the football accurately. And yeah, I know that he's got better weapons than the Panthers, and maybe he'll improve a little bit, but he's like, if you have those problems, I don't care what team you're on, you're still going to have those problems anyways. Just ask Mark Sanchez, ask Blake Bortles. He's those type of quarterbacks. So that's why I came up with the list I came up with.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really hate on your list. It's not a bad list at all to me. Although we did have Mitch on the opposite sides of the spectrum. I think mine was a little more of a projection for a franchise or me projecting how they're going to be rather than like who you want right now in this moment. But I just don't see Mitch having much of a NFL future. Well, I see Daniel Jones having the brightest future. And none of these, I think none of these guys are going to be starters in 5 years.
Yeah, I could kind of agree. The only one, but I think Trubisky is going to be the most likely starter in 5 years. But even then, I just think he'll be like a bridge guy or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I think you're kind of underselling Trubisky a little bit. All right, let's move on now to the next topic. So this next topic will be about Carson Wentz. So we're going to talk about the foot injury, and this should rather be an interesting topic. I feel kind of passionate about this. So he is declared to be out 5 to 12 weeks. That's what I'm hearing. He's going to get surgery on his foot, which is now going to be interesting to the Colts. You trade for Carson Wentz. Now they got 2 unproven backups. Yes, they signed Brett Hundley, but he's probably not going to start for them. That could become a star in the near future if they were put in a position to succeed. Before I say anything else, though, I have to go ahead and present you guys with the topic question. What is your reaction to Carson Wentz injuring his foot?
Yeah, I mean, good timing before this episode came out. Wentz will get surgery. He'll be out 5 to 12 weeks. That's a big gap of time. So you know what? It's crazy for them. Unfortunately, I like Wentz a little more than other people do. But honestly, Jacob Eason, he's got to step up now, at least for a little bit. I think we both kind of like Jake. I think you like Jacob Eason a little more than me, but neither of us had like dislikings for him in the draft. Got him at a good value pick. I think it was like 4th round or something like that. Eason, I think he'll do just fine. Maybe a little bit much turnovers to start, but like him. But it's more of just like a bridge guy until Wentz comes back. I don't think it'll affect a ton for the Colts.
Okay, I'm going to come out here and go on a limb, okay? And I see where you're coming from, but I think this is a big, big deal for the Colts. As we all know, the Colts, they like to lie about their injuries with their quarterbacks. Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, they say he's going to be out 5 to 12 weeks. I think it's going to be closer to the 12 weeks. And not only is it going to be closer to the 12 weeks, it might be season-ending injury. And even if it isn't, I don't know if there's no guarantee that Carson Wentz is going to get his job back. I believe in Jacob Eason. I believe in Sam Ehlinger, depending on what's going to happen. I think they're going to start Eason. When I look at Jacob Eason, I think about a Nick Foles type of player. And you remember what happened when Nick Foles was in that Frank Reich system? They won a Super Bowl off of that. So when I see Jacob Eason, he's going to be able to get the ball out. He's going to do a good job distributing to his playmakers. He's going to get a good job getting Michael Pittman the ball. He's going to get Pascal going, T.Y. Hilton going as well. And I think that the people are sleeping on Eason a little bit. This is the perfect team for him to go to. And if this turns out to be a Trent Green, Kurt Warner situation where Kurt Warner got the job in 99, I wouldn't be surprised. If this turned out to be a Tony Romo, Dak Prescott situation, would not be surprised. I'm not saying that he'll be nearly as good as those two, but in terms of the impact that he will have, I think he's going to be one of the best backups in the league, and then he'll get red hot. And then I think he's going to take that job away from Carson Wentz.
Man, that's a crazy bold prediction, but I'm with it as a Cowboys fan. I mean, I was cheering for Dak Prescott to keep the job when they were saying Romo was healthy. So yeah, I mean, I'd be with that. Although I do like Wentz a little bit. I just love seeing like backups get their shot and then them roll with it. Eason is a capable quarterback. So I mean, maybe he shows us more than what fans are giving credit for. So yeah, that's pretty exciting to see. But also with like them lying about injuries, that was also like an older coaching staff. I don't think that's really going down as much anymore.
It's happened with multiple coaching staffs though. That was a different coaching staff with Manning and Luck.
Yes, but now it's also another coaching staff too. So I do agree it'll be closer to 12 weeks. I don't think it's season ending or anything. But yeah, I do think it'll be closer to 12 weeks. But I'm excited to see Eason roll with this team. I think he's going to be the starter, but I'm also excited to see Sam Ehlinger in preseason. He was really good in college, but he just never seemed to get better, so, if he is who he is, it's a solid backup, but we'll see in preseason.
And you know what this also shows? It shows that Carson Wentz is injury prone as well. And, I had major concerns about it. I'm not a Wentz guy. I know you're kind of more of a Wentz guy than I am. But yeah, this shows that Carson Wentz is injury prone. And who's to say when Carson Wentz comes back to the field that he won't be ready to go? I don't think he's going to be ready to go when he comes back to the field. He's definitely going to be a little rusty because remember he got benched with like about a month left to go in the season. So that means he hasn't really actually stepped on an NFL field over a long period of time, which is honestly the worst thing that could have happened to Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is going to be rusty, and his body is breaking down faster than what we were expecting, okay? So, I mean, even if Carson Wentz comes back, somebody like a Jacob Eason could just take it right back. And also, here's the thing, too. Look at the conditional first rounder that the Colts gave up. Okay, if Carson Wentz plays 75% of the snaps, they have to give the Eagles a first-round pick. By keeping Eason in, But for majority of the season, at the least, they don't have to give up a first round pick for Carson Wentz. And who's to say at the season's end they could still recoup the second rounder for Wentz at the end of the season. He's still a little too proven to get less than a second round pick.
Yeah, but also if you use a fourth round, their value doesn't go up to a second round. But yeah, I know what you're saying. But yeah, I mean, if it comes down to it, they might bench Wentz for Eason and, try and keep that first round pick. That's a big deal. And it's not being talked about as much. But yes, that could very well end up being the case.
Yes, Jacob Eason is having the opportunity of his life, man. He's not going to have a better shot than this perfect system. And plus, they're going to be able to run the football. They got a nasty offensive line, and they've got a solid core of receivers. That sounds like a recipe that you could use for a Nick Foles or a Kurt Warner kind of situation. I mean, if Jacob Eason pops out, puts up something like 24 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, something like that. Hey, I think the Colts are going to be pretty good with that.
Yeah, and you also look at Jonathan Taylor back there. Jonathan Taylor was leaned on his entire college career. Like, he was the entire Wisconsin offense. And then you bring him in. If you need to lean on Jonathan Taylor and you have that offensive line, no worries for them at all. So I don't think this will hurt them that much. Maybe could end up helping them.
Yeah, and I mean, look, Eason to some people was a first round talent. So who's to say that he can't play like one? I'm not saying he will play like a first round, but I think he's going to play like a second or a third rounder. He's going to be in that Jimmy Garoppolo type of tier where he's going to be a solid quarterback. He's just going to distribute the ball to his playmakers and just do what the coaches ask him to do.
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of mock drafts throwing Eason in at the end of the first round in his class. So he is a capable quarterback. It's not like he's this regular fourth round talent. No, he is a second round talent that they just got a steal later on the draft.
Yeah, if nothing else, he just turns out to be the Denver version of Osweiler, which wouldn't be too bad. All right, let's move on now. Back to the NBA. All right, so we are going to be talking about Pascal Siakam. Okay, so he was a guy who was considered to be a hero in Toronto 2 seasons ago. Now, though, he is on the trading block as we are speaking. At least that's what I believe. Time moves by fast. According to Bleacher Report, they are saying that Pascal Siakam will likely be traded. Well, I also saw the Raptors pick Scotty Barnes with the 4th pick of the 2021 NBA draft. There is smoke in the situation right now, and there is no denying that. With all of that being said, this now leads me to ask this top question. What will happen to Pascal Siakam this offseason?
I mean, it's a good question. I mean, there's lots of talk about him being moved and them picking Scotty Barnes. I don't think Scotty Barnes' pick is really that, it doesn't affect what was happening that much to me because Scotty Barnes can play any position. Like, you can play him at any single position on the court. And, they say that about a lot of people. I think that term's overused, positionless. But I'm going to say it about Scotty Barnes. Scotty Barnes is positionless. But what happens to Siakam? I think Portland's a big option. CJ McCollum type deal. Although I think the Trailblazers would have to give up a little more. Siakam, did have a little bit of down year, but I mean, who doesn't? Some players have down years. I think he'll bounce back. Portland's a big one. Warriors, I mean, they had some draft picks that, maybe the Warriors throw some stuff at them. I like and then the last team I'll throw out is the Pistons. I think the Pistons have the assets to move for Siakam. And, with all that being said, I do think Siakam will be moved.
Well, yeah, I think Siakam would definitely be moved. There's no question about it. Yeah, with Scotty Barnes, yeah, he can play multiple positions. I still think Pascal Siakam's getting moved. There's still too much going on. He's unhappy with the Raptors. The Raptors are not happy with him. They feel like they got to do a major shakeup from their championship core. I don't know why they want to do that, but they want to do that. Whatever, okay? So when I look at it, obviously the Trailblazers have to be the favorite. In terms of getting Pascal Siakam, they can do a Siakam for CJ McCollum. They can swap that. That would certainly be an interesting fit for both of those teams. And I like the fact that you mentioned the Golden State Warriors. He's going to fit in well next to Stephen Curry. So I'm really liking that as well. And here's a team that you didn't mention that I thought you would definitely mention. The Dallas Mavericks. What do they need? They need better defense, and they need a guy that can fit next to Luka Doncic that has the capability to be a star. He can certainly fit that in. And for the Toronto Raptors, they could trade for a Kristaps Porzingis. I'm still high on Porzingis. I know a lot of people are trashing on him right now. I still believe this Porzingis guy can play. He's just playing as a side piece to Luka Doncic because, nobody in their right mind would make Luka a second option, okay? So that's why Porzingis is kind of struggling out there. He's having that Kevin Love, Chris Bosh syndrome when they were struggling. Look, if you're the Mavericks, I would stick it out, but if they really want to move on from Porzingis, go ahead and go get a Pascal Siakam. So I just see that fit happening.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to throw this out there just because I thought it was pretty funny. It is Kristaps Porzingis' birthday today. I don't think they'll make a trade today, but imagine like a Kristaps swap on his birthday or something. That'd be pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, Porzingis, like you said, he's a lot better than I think people are giving him credit for. He's, he's putting up really good numbers. He put up like 20 points last year, closer to 10 rebounds.
Put 20 and 10.
Yeah, I mean, and he was pretty efficient. So Porzingis, I mean, there's no reason he really shouldn't have, bad trade value. So if they want to do that, I'd see no reason why either side would really say no to that.
Yeah, that would definitely be interesting. But I want to talk about Pascal Siakam's stats a little bit. He kind of had a down year last year, and he had been progressing really well until that past season that we just saw. So Siakam, even in this quote-unquote down year, he still averaged 21, 7, and 4. All right, and he still was an impact on the defensive end of the floor. Now, my biggest problem for him was that he dropped down 7% from the three-point line. He was a 36% shooter. Now he became a 29, 30% three-point shooter. Obviously, that's not good. His true shooting percentage wasn't really all that. So, quite frankly, I mean, I would still bank on Pascal Siakam, having a bounce-back year, but the Raptors don't seem interested in that. They seem to want to blow everything up, and they seem to be overreacting to this one season where they missed the playoffs when they didn't even have any home games. That's tough for them.
Yeah, I mean, Siakam, I mean, he maintained all his stats except, shooting percentage, mostly three-point percentage, which did drop a lot. But really, that hurts. You might want to move him. But I still have lots of faith in Siakam. Like I was talking about Porzingis, people are just ready to throw Siakam out. I'm not. Siakam's a perfect glue guy for a contender. He's also a guy who's going to get you 20 a game. So if you have the ability to play defense and drop 20 a game, I think both sides are in on that.
I think Siakam can still be a number 2 option. He still showed me he could be a number 2 option on a championship caliber team. But yeah, I think the Raptors are going to move him because he's become a problem within the Raptors culture in terms of the happiness, whatever you want to say. And, he hasn't really been dependable. He did miss 16 games this past season that we saw. But like I said, I've listed him to the Trailblazers. They need better defense. And the Warriors, they could certainly use an upgrade at power forward. And a team like the Mavs, they need a defender that can be versatile. All right, so allow me to ask you this. All right, so what team did we not list yet that you think Pascal Siakam could be going to? Like, what team will strike a deal for him?
I'll throw out one more team. I'll throw out the Chicago Bulls. Possible sign and trade with Lauri Markkanen. They have that. They have Vucevic. I know who they just traded for, so it's unlikely they trade Vucevic. But they have guys that they can trade. So if they want to strike a deal for Siakam, I think the Chicago Bulls have all the chance to do it.
And I'm going to list out a surprise team, a team that I trashed on earlier. Hey, I think it could be the Washington Wizards, hypothetically speaking. Since they wanted to ship out Russell Westbrook, but they're not yet in the rebuild, and they want to extend Bradley Beal. I mean, at this point, the damage is already done, but you might as well try to get a Pascal Siakam. At least he could help you out a little bit, since you don't want to go to the bottom. Otherwise, you might as well trade Bradley Beal, but they don't want to do that. Okay, so I'm going to list out the Wizards as a dark horse team, but that's only if they decide to get smarter than what they were in the Russell Westbrook trade.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree with you. I just don't trust in the organization as much. And honestly, I'm really upset for Wes Unseld Jr. because I like him, and they just did that to him, like first move when he steps in. Feel bad for him, but
Yeah, definitely. All right, so now we got the Pascal Siakam topic wrapped up. All right, so we're going to be moving on to our final topic, which will be about college football. All right, so we're going to be doing our top 5 rankings. Okay, so like I said, this is the time of the year where predictions are being made in football, whether you're an NFL guy or a college football guy, whatever football that you watch. That's when predictions are being made. This topic, like I said earlier, will focus on that, okay? There's going to be programs that are stacked while others are being slept on. Everybody knows that. It can be predictable, But predicting how the order is going to play out is usually not. Okay, with college football moving to a 12-team playoff format, we figured that it would be best to do the usual top 5 list, top 5 list that we usually come up with. This list will rank college football teams that will finish in the top 5 from 1 through 5 in that order, like you see on the screen. With all of that being said, this now leads me to ask this top question. Who will be the top 5 teams in college football by the end of the 2021 season?
Man, I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this because it's so tough to do this because 5 teams this year are number 1 teams, 5 of them. And so just so you know, this 5th team, if they finish first, no surprise to me whatsoever. And because they just came off the national championship, I'm putting Alabama there. And I'm crazy, but they're replacing a lot of people. They always do, but I don't see them replacing them with the talent they usually have. Yes, they bring in Bryce Young, but he hasn't played yet. He's gotten some garbage time, but even in the garbage time, he didn't look awesome. I think their running backs will be good, but not Najee Harris level. Wide receivers, John Mechie, he's good. Not Devontae Smith. I feel like they're just downgrading at a lot of places. Ole Miss has a great chance to catch him. Georgia in like a SEC championship game has a great chance to catch him. Georgia's awesome this year. So they have to replace a lot. They always have to replace a lot, but this year I think it's a little different because you have to replace quarterback, running back, and receiver, which is what you need to win today. Number 4, Ohio State. Ohio State, man, they're a great team, but another thing like Alabama, quarterback controversy. They just had Quinn Ewers, number 1 prospect 2022 class. He just flipped over to the 2021 class super late. So he's enrolling right now as we're talking. Maybe halfway through the season, Quinn Ewers takes that spot. I'm not saying he's Trevor Lawrence, but he's almost at that level. He's that good. Quinn Ewers is awesome. Then you look, and their wide receivers, I mentioned their wide receivers, best wide receiver core in the country. I was listening to a wide receiver draft the other day, college football wide receiver draft. 6 of the top 12 picks were Ohio State wide receivers. That's unbelievable. Just the only thing is secondary. I think they'll figure that out. Number 3, Clemson Tigers. I think they could catch a loss early to Georgia, but they got DJ Uiagalelei, who I really like. He's played a little bit last year. He's ready to play this year. They just need a little bit better wide receivers. Defense going to be really good. Defensive line's a terror. The secondary is good. And they're bringing in our boy Will Shipley. They keep Lynn J. Dixon. They have running back options. Clemson's going to be Clemson. Number 2, Georgia. Georgia's really good. I wanted to put them number 1. They just have a super tough schedule. They'll probably have to play Alabama in the SEC championship, have to play Clemson week 1, but they're ready. JT Daniels, he's one of those dudes who could win the Heisman. Wide receivers, really good. They brought in Eric Gilbert from LSU. They had a wide receiver go down. They'll be fine. He'll probably even be back. Defense, high level. Tyke Smith transferred. That's a great transfer. Number 1, Oklahoma. And they could be number 5. Oklahoma, though, Spencer Rattler. Anything happens to him, they have Caleb Williams as a backup. He's awesome. Wide receivers, really good. Offense line's always good. Running back's good. And finally, they have a defense. And they have a defensive coordinator in Alex Grinch, who's probably going to be there one more season because he's going to be a head coach. Alex Grinch, he's that defensive coordinator. He's Brent Venables level. So this defense is ready, and the offense has always been ready. That's my top 5.
That was an interesting top 5 list. I just heard about the projections. That was rather interesting. Well, I'll say one thing to start before I officially announce my list. You at least got the same top 5 teams as me, as who you got. And I know not everybody's going to necessarily agree with the top 5. And yeah, man, I agree with you. All of them could be number 1. It was just hard for me to go. All right, I'm going to start off number 5. I really did not want to do this, but I had to put Georgia. I just could not see how they were going to be higher than 5, okay? Because, look, I love Georgia because JT Daniels, he's going to have a breakout year. He was getting better at the end of the year last year. You know, Georgia, for their standards, had a down year last year, and they got a brutal schedule this year. But, hey, I believe in Kirby Smart. I believe in his abilities to coach. Coaching matters in football. So Kirby Smart, he's going to show that capability. They're going to be able to run the football. They're going to be able to throw the ball all over the lot, and they're going to score a lot of points. Their offense is finally on par with their defense because we always know that their defense can play. It's always their offense that comes up short. Not anymore. They got J.T. Daniels, who I believe is a first-round type of quarterback in the NFL. So they got a pretty good quarterback. He's the best quarterback they've ever had in the Kirby Smart era, at least recent memory. Okay, and then we'll move on to number 4. I'm going to go with Ohio State. Yes, I could put them higher, but they did lose Justin Fields, and they lost a lot of players. And yes, they did get Quinn Ewers, and yeah, he's going to reclassify, and he's going to get more playing time than what some people might possibly be expecting. But there's just too many question marks about the team to put them higher than 4. Okay, but they're still going to be a really good team because Ryan Day, he's a great coach. They just got a stacked roster. It's just not as stacked as in years past for their standards. So I'm going to say them at 4, okay? Then number 3, I'm going to go with Oklahoma. They could very easily be number 1. Spencer Rattler, what a beast this man is. This guy, when you look at him, when his ceiling is like in the NFL, so I'd rather say, is like a Patrick Mahomes. His floor is somebody like a Kyler Murray. He's an amazing player. He's my QB2, but if you wanted to argue if he was QB1 in the country, then yeah, I really wouldn't blame you at all. And I think that Spencer Rattler, he's going to break out this year, and he's going to be amazing. And he's going to be on a mission to prove people wrong. And I see Oklahoma, they could very easily go undefeated this year with the schedule that they have. Now let's move on to number 2. I'm going to go with Clemson, their new quarterback. I'm going to have trouble pronouncing his name, but DJ, and you can help me out, Shawn.
DJ Uyunglele, you can just call him DJU.
DJU, yeah. All right, I'll call him that. Yeah, he's going to go off this season. He's obviously not Trevor Lawrence, but he's a very good quarterback. He's got mobility. He's got good arm strength. You know, he's got very little weaknesses in him, and he's played in some games, so he already has experience in that regard. So I really like that. And plus, you also look at their schedule. Yes, they played Georgia week 1, but they do play the ACC most of the time. I don't really think that the ACC is going to really be keeping up with Clemson outside of maybe UNC or somebody like that, which I believe in Sam Howell, by the way. But they're not going to beat Clemson. So Clemson, their path to being number 2 is rather simple. If they beat Georgia week 1, they're going to be number 2, okay? It's as simple as that because they're going to win all the rest of the other games. Because to me, week 1 is the toughest test for them. I think number 1, got to go with Alabama. Yeah, they lost a lot of pieces, but you know what they were last year? They were also the most stacked team in the history of college football as well. And yes, that includes all the other past teams. They were the most stacked team ever. So yeah, you're telling me that they're downgrading? Well, of course they're going to downgrade. Okay, so they still got a great team as far as I'm concerned. And as far as what I know, Coach Saban, he's the GOAT in coaching in collegiate football, and their roster is still stacked. I mean, every other college team would definitely take Bama's roster as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Saban has to relock and reload every year. It seems like it just feels like they're reloading important pieces. Usually it's like a quarterback, then some D linemen. No, this year it's quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and it's the SEC. Ole Miss wants some, LSU wants some, Auburn wants some, Georgia wants some, Florida. They play Florida. That's a big game. They play Miami week 1. They have a tough schedule. They might drop. I want to say they drop 1. They could even drop 2, but yeah, I mean, you put Alabama 1. You cannot argue Alabama being 1 because they have Nick Saban. They have that stacked roster. They'll be fine. You could throw these teams in a randomizer, jumble it up, pick them out, draw names. Any order is perfectly fine. That's how tough it is this year. Want to go bold, pick Oklahoma, praise the defense because they finally have a defense.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. And don't sleep on Iowa State, too. They could easily finish in the top 5 as well, given their path and their underrated roster as well. So watch out for Iowa State. They're going to be a sleeper.
Iowa State can definitely catch Oklahoma slipping, or maybe they lose first time, but they go to Big 12 championship, catch Oklahoma, ruin their playoff chances. That could very well happen. Texas is going to be good under Sark. I don't think they're that level. There's
Not
lots
yet.
there's lots of teams that can contend up here, but I think these five are the clear-cut tier one teams.
Agreed, man. Agreed. And yeah, like you said, you can throw it into a randomizer, but as long as you got these 5 teams here, I can't really argue with where you put them.
Exactly. Completely agree.
Yeah, that's definitely for sure. So, yeah, there was a lot to talk about with the college football rankings, a lot to feel rather passionate about because, like you said, there's just so much talent in college football right now compared to years past where it was just a cakewalk. This year, it's not going to be a cakewalk for any of these teams. And with the 12-team playoff format, now every game's going to matter more than what it did before because everybody's going to be jockeying for seeding and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not completely sure if 12 teams. I think 12 team would be the following year, but even that, yeah, it's going to make it more competitive. I also think, games will matter a little more. But yeah, for sure. I mean, this super top heavy this year, these top 5, as long as you have them top 5, I'm cool with your ranking.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so this basically wraps up the college football top 5 rankings, and this basically wraps up episode 7. So, thank you for watching episode 7 of Combo Sports Talk. I really hope that you guys enjoyed the topics since they were spread out well. We talked about everything you guys could have imagined. We talked about basically college basketball, NBA, NFL, college football, whatever. We talked about everything that we could have. Okay, let us know down in the comment section below on what you guys thought about this podcast that was done. Remember to follow our Instagram. It is at combo.sports.talk. Make sure to follow us. We are still working on our Twitter account. We'll make it by the end of this week, hopefully. Also, feel free to ask us questions whenever and wherever. We will answer them. Next episode, we plan to basically recap what happened in NBA free agency and whatever crazy moves that are happening. We're going to be making NFL predictions. We might even make collegiate predictions too, depending on what the topics are going to be looking like. Shawn, good episode we just pulled off together.
Yeah, man, it was for sure a good episode. Loved it, enjoyed it. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but we've extended to 7 topics already. I mean, that's crazy. We're just giving you what you guys want, more content, and we're giving it to you. We're just unloading.
Yeah, you guys have done a great job supporting us. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. And also, drop the likes as well. Comment down below. Hopefully, we can do shout-outs. If you guys do enough comments, we will do shout-outs on the show, okay? So, everybody, please note of that, okay? So, again, thanks for watching this podcast. This has been a great show to produce. I hope you guys feel the same way about that. Like I said, we will be back here next episode to recap what happened in the NBA world because the off-season time is about to get crazy. And then we're going to be getting excited for football season. As always, there will always be new topics to present to you guys. I have nothing else to say now. Peace out.